The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was quiet when the message arrived from Earth. Ambassador Elara Voss stood at the center of the room, her 4 silver eyes scanning the faces of representatives from 47 different alien species. She had served on this council for 200 years, and she had never seen a transmission marked with such urgency. "Play the message," ordered High Counselor Tarvin, an ancient being who existed as a floating ball of glowing gas. His voice echoed through the chamber like distant thunder. The holographic screen flickered to life, and the face of Secretary General Daniel Perry appeared. He was an older human male with gray hair and tired eyes. But there was something different about him today. His usual diplomatic smile was gone. His voice held no warmth. "Members of the Galactic Council," Daniel began, "for 17 years, humanity has been part of your community. We followed your rules. We paid your taxes. We sent our soldiers to fight in your wars against the Kreth Dominion. Wars that had nothing to do with us. Wars where our people died for your interests." The chamber grew very still. The clicking sounds from the insect-like Montari delegation stopped completely. 1 week ago, pirates from the Velthari Consortium attacked our colony on Kepler 4, for it to be. They killed 4,000 innocent people. Men, women, and children. When we asked the Council for justice, you told us that we had provoked the attack by expanding too quickly into space. Lyra Voss shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She remembered that vote. She had agreed with the Council's decision. The humans were newcomers, after all. They needed to learn their place. 3 days ago, Daniel continued, the Council voted to deny humanity voting rights for another century. You said we were too immature, too primitive. After everything we have done for you, after all the blood we have spilled, you still treat us like children. Daniel paused and took a deep breath. When he spoke again, his voice was like ice. Effective immediately, the United Earth government is leaving the Galactic Accord. All alien embassies on Earth and our colonies have 72 hours to leave. Our borders are now closed. Any ship that enters human space without permission will be treated as an enemy. The transmission ended. For 3 long seconds, nobody moved. Then the chamber exploded into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for emergency economic meetings. The Velthari ambassador, a tall reptilian creature named Crix, was screaming that the humans had gone insane. High Counselor Tarvan floated above the noise, his glowing form pulsing with confusion. In 3,000 years of galactic civilization, no species had ever voluntarily left the Council. The idea was unthinkable. Where would they go? How would they survive without access to Council technology and trade routes? On the other side of the galaxy, in an underground military base beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Catherine Moore watched the Council's reaction with grim satisfaction. She was a woman in her early 50s with short gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. "They are panicking," said Commander Nathan Hughes from his computer station. 17 species have already called for emergency sessions. "Good," Catherine replied. "Let them panic. We gave them 17 years of loyalty. They gave us nothing but disrespect." The door opened, and Secretary General Perry walked in. He looked exhausted, but determined. "The President has signed the isolation decree. It is official now." Catherine nodded. "What about our defenses?" 300 orbital weapon platforms are online. The quantum shield network is active. Nothing gets through without our permission. Nathan looked up from his screen. "Admiral, our spies are reporting that the Velthari trade companies are already calculating their losses. Apparently, humans were their biggest customers for spaceship fuel." "How sad for them," Catherine said, without any sympathy in her voice. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for a long time. While publicly complaining about Council restrictions, Earth scientists had been working in secret laboratories on Mars and beneath the ice of Europa. They had built weapons that the Council could not imagine. They had created shields that worked on principles that alien physics said were impossible. They had developed faster-than-light engines that did not need the Council's carefully controlled gateway network. For 17 years, The galaxy had looked at humans and seen a young, weak species that needed guidance. They had been wrong. They had been very wrong. Meanwhile, on the human colony world of New Montana, Governor Laura Bennett received the news while standing in her office. She was a former Marine who had lost her left arm in the Kreth Wars. Her replacement arm was a mechanical prosthetic that was technically illegal under Council technology laws. She had never cared about that law. "It really did it," said her security chief Patrick Sullivan, a big man with a scarred face. "Earth actually left the Council." Laura walked to her window and looked out at the wheat fields stretching to the horizon. 2 moons hung in the purple sky. She had helped build this colony from nothing. The thought of alien warships coming to take it away made her angry in a way she had not felt since the war. "Send a message to Admiral Moore," she said. "Tell her that New Montana is ready to fight if necessary." Patrick nodded and left the room. Laura continued to stare at the sky, thinking about what was coming. The Council would not accept this quietly. They would try to force humanity back into their system. They would use economic pressure first, then military threats, finally actual violence. But humanity was not the same species that had first made contact with alien life 17 years ago. They had learned. They had adapted. They had grown strong in the shadows, while pretending to be weak in the light, back on Earth. In a small house in Ohio, retired physicist Dr. Samuel Grant was watching the news when his doorbell rang. He was 72 years old, with white hair and glasses that he kept pushing up his nose. He had not worked on government projects in 10 years. His visitor was Dr. Christine Palmer, a young woman who had been his student many years ago. She now worked at a secret research facility on Europa. "Hello, Sam," she said. "May I come in?" Samuel led her inside, and they sat in his messy living room, surrounded by books and old photographs. "They want you back," Christine said. "The Council is talking about attacking us. We need to speed up the Phoenix project." Samuel frowned. Phoenix was just a theory. Mathematical equations on paper? It was. Then we made it real. Christine leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement and fear. "Sam, we did it. We cracked zero-point energy. Unlimited power from empty space itself. The Council has been telling everyone for thousands of years that it is impossible. Their physics says it cannot be done." "Physics," Samuel repeated slowly. He understood now. Human scientists did not share the same basic assumptions as alien scientists. They had looked at the same problem from a different angle and found a solution that the galaxy had missed. "What do you need from me?" he asked. Christine's face grew serious. "We need you to turn it into a weapon." Samuel was quiet for a long time. Outside, he could hear children playing in a neighbor's yard. Such a peaceful sound. Such an ordinary moment. And yet everything was about to change. "When do we start?" he finally asked. Christine smiled, but there was no joy in it. "Right now." 2 weeks passed after humanity left the Galactic Council. In that short time, the economic damage spread like a disease through alien civilization. The Trelawney Confederacy, whose entire farming industry depended on human-made irrigation machines, watched their crops die across 3 star systems. The more-free banking clans saw their currency lose half its value overnight. Their financial experts had never imagined a future without human trade. In the council chambers on Nexera Prime, emergency meetings happened every day. The representatives looked tired and frightened. Nobody had expected this crisis. Nobody had prepared for it. "This is ridiculous," shouted Ambassador Crix of the Velthary Consortium. His green scales had turned an angry purple color. "The humans cannot simply leave. They have contracts. They have obligations to us." "Contracts that the Council broke many times," replied Lyra Voss quietly. She had spent the last 2 weeks reading through humanity's complaints. What she found had disturbed her greatly. In the last 10 years alone, human businesses lost 47 billion credits in Council courts. Every single ruling went against them. "As it should have," Crix hissed. "They are newcomers. They must learn to respect their betters." "Their betters?" repeated High Counselor Tarvon. His glowing form flickered with what might have been shame. "And yet, These newcomers have somehow become essential to our civilization without us noticing. The holographic display showed a map of galactic trade routes. Red lines marked the paths that had been disrupted. There were so many red lines. Human cargo ships had carried 18% of all goods between star systems. Human engineers maintained important machines on 200 worlds. Human soldiers had protected dozens of species from pirates and raiders. All of that was gone now, and the Council was finally beginning to understand what they had lost. "We must force them to return," Crix demanded. "Send a fleet. Block their star systems. Make them suffer until they beg to come back." Several representatives nodded in agreement. The Velthari had the lar. Just military and the Council, after all. Surely a show of force would bring the foolish humans to their senses. But Lyra Voss said nothing. She was thinking about the human soldiers she had met over the years. There was something different about them, something hard and determined in their eyes. They did not fight like other species. They did not surrender when the situation looked hopeless. They found ways to win that nobody expected. She wondered if military force was really the answer. On the colony world of New Montana, Governor Laura Bennett was having the same thoughts. She stood in the command center of her planetary defense force. Watching screens that showed the positions of alien ships near human space, "The Velthari are gathering a fleet," reported Patrick Sullivan. "Our spies say they have at least 100 warships. Long before they reach us?" Laura asked. "Maybe for weeks if they move slowly. 2 weeks if they rush." Laura nodded and turned to face her staff. These were good people. Farmers and teachers and shopkeepers who had trained as soldiers because they loved their home. They deserved to know the truth. "The aliens think we are weak," she said. "They think that because we accepted their rules for 17 years, we will accept their punishment now. They are wrong." She pulled up a new display, showing the orbital defense platforms around New Montana. Each one bristled with weapons that officially did not exist. Earth has been preparing for this moment since we first realized the Council would never treat us fairly. We have weapons they have never seen. We have shields they do not understand. When the Velthari come, they will learn that humans are not easy prey. The room was silent. Then Patrick Sullivan stepped forward and saluted. "New Montana stands ready, Governor." One by one, every person in the room did the same. Back on Earth, Dr. Samuel Grant had moved into the secret research facility beneath Europa's ice. The laboratory was enormous, filled with machines that hummed with strange energies. Young scientists worked at computer stations, their faces glowing in the blue light of holographic displays. Christine Palmer led him through the complex to a heavily guarded room. Inside was a device that looked almost ordinary. A metal sphere about the size of a basketball, covered with sensors and cables. "This is it," Christine said. "The Phoenix reactor. It pulls energy directly from the quantum vacuum. Unlimited power from nothing." Samuel walked around the device, his old eyes taking in every detail. The Council said this was impossible. Their greatest scientists spent thousands of years trying to make it work. They were limited by their assumptions, Christine explained. Their physics is based on certain fundamental beliefs about how the universe works. They never questioned those beliefs. We did, and now you want to make it into a weapon. Christine's face grew serious. "The Velthari are coming, Sam. They have bigger ships and more soldiers. If we fight them with conventional weapons, we will lose. But if we can use Phoenix energy in our guns and shields, we can change everything." Samuel thought about his grandchildren back in Ohio. He thought about the millions of people on Earth and the colonies who were counting on them. He thought about the alien council that had treated humanity like servants for 17 years. "Show me the equations," he said. For the next 3 weeks, Samuel worked without rest. He was old, and his body was tired, but his mind was still sharp. He found solutions to problems that had stopped younger scientists. He simplified designs that were too complex. He pushed the team harder than they had ever been pushed before, and slowly, the Phoenix weapon system took shape. In the council chambers, the debates continued. Some representatives wanted peace. Others wanted war. The Velthari grew more aggressive every day, demanding that the council authorize military action. We have assembled 147 warships, announced Admiral Crix Velthin, the cousin of Ambassador Crix. He was a tall reptilian warrior with scars across his face. Give me permission to attack, and I will bring the humans back in chains. This is madness, protested a small delegate from a peaceful species. We do not even know what weapons the humans have developed. We should negotiate. Negotiate? Admiral Velthin laughed. With primitives who have existed for only a few thousand years? They are children playing with toys they do not understand. One battle will teach them their place. High Counselor Tarvan hesitated. He had lived for 3,000 years and had seen many conflicts. Something about this situation worried him. The humans had withdrawn too confidently. They had closed their borders too efficiently. It was almost as if they wanted the council to attack, but the political pressure was too strong. The Velthari demanded action. The economy was collapsing. Something had to be done. Very well, Tarvan finally said. The council authorizes military action against human space. Admiral Velthin, you may proceed. Admiral smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The humans will regret the day they defied us. On Earth. In the military command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Catherine Moore received the news with a cold smile. They are coming, she said to her staff. 147 warships? The largest fleet assembled in 300 years. Our defense fleet has only 23 ships, Nathan Hughes pointed out. 23 ships with Phoenix weapons, Catherine corrected him. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity can really do. She opened a communication channel to all human military forces. Her voice was calm and steady, the voice of a woman who had already accepted whatever would come. This is Admiral Moore. The enemy is approaching. Remember what we are fighting for? Remember your families. Remember everyone who died because the council thought we were not worth protecting. Today, we change the rules of this galaxy forever. The Phoenix reactors hummed to life across 23 ships. The weapons powered up with energies that alien science said could not exist, and humanity prepared for war. The Velthari battle fleet arrived at the edge of human space on a cold Tuesday morning, Earth time. 147 warships hung in the darkness between stars, their weapons charged and ready. Admiral Crix Velthin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominance. Watching the tactical display with hungry eyes, report, he commanded. The humans have sent a defensive fleet, his sensor officer replied. 23 vessels. All of them smaller than our light cruisers. Crix Velthin laughed. The sound echoed through the bridge, making his crew shift nervously. 23 ships against 147. The humans are either brave or stupid. Probably both, Admiral. We are detecting unusual energy signatures from the human vessels. Patterns we have not seen before. Irrelevant. The Admiral waved his clawed hand dismissively. Signal the fleet. We advance in standard attack formation. I want this finished quickly. The massive Velthari fleet began to move forward, engines glowing like angry red stars. They had conquered dozens of species over the centuries. They had never lost a major battle. The thought that these primitive humans could stop them was laughable aboard the human carrier Defiance. Admiral Catherine Moore watched the enemy approach on her tactical screen. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of machines and the soft beeping of sensors. Her officers worked at their stations with focused calm. Enemy fleet closing, reported Lieutenant Commander Rachel Santos. They will be in weapons range in 3 minutes. Catherine nodded slowly. Her heart was beating fast, but her face showed nothing. She had waited her entire career for this moment. All those years of watching humans die in alien wars, all those insults and dismissals from council representatives who thought they were better than her species. Today, the galaxy would learn the truth. She opened a channel to her fleet. All ships, this is more. We have trained for this day. We have prepared for this day. Some of you lost family in the Kreth Wars. Some of you lost friends when the Velthari pirates attacked Kepler-4 for 2B. Today we answer for all of that. Today, we show them what humanity can do when we stop holding back. She closed the channel and turned to her weapons officer, a serious man named Commander Stephen Davis. Activate the Phoenix systems. On every human ship, something incredible happened. Reactors that should not exist according to galactic physics began to pulse with golden light. Weapons systems powered up with energies that the Council's scientists had sworn were impossible to create. The ships themselves seemed to glow from within. The Velthury sensors detected the power surge immediately. "Admiral," the sensor officer said, his voice suddenly uncertain. "The human ships are producing energy levels we cannot explain. Our instruments are having difficulty measuring the output." Krixvelthin frowned. "A bluff. They are trying to scare us. All ships, open fire as soon as we are in range." The two fleets closed the distance between them. The Velthury ships were enormous, covered with weapons and thick armor plating. The human ships were smaller, sleeker, almost fragile-looking in comparison. Any military expert in the galaxy would have predicted an easy Velthury victory. The Velthury fired first. Thousands of plasma bolts and missiles streaked across space toward the human fleet. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The human shields absorbed everything. Not deflected, not weakened. Absorbed completely, like water disappearing into sand. "What?" Krixvelthin stared at his display in disbelief. "That is impossible. Fire again. All weapons." The Velthury fleet unleashed another devastating barrage. Once again, the human shields held without any visible strain, and then the humans fired back. The Phoenix. Energy beams did not impact the Velthury shields. They passed through them as if they did not exist. The beams struck the holes directly, and wherever they touched, metal vaporized instantly. The first Velthury cruiser exploded in a ball of white fire, then another, then 3 more at once. On the bridge of the Dominance, alarms were screaming. Officers shouted reports that made no sense. Ships were dying all around them, and their weapons were completely useless. "How is this happening?" Krixvelthin demanded. "Their weapons ignore our shields. Our weapons cannot touch them." "This is not possible, Admiral. We have lost 34 ships. 37. 42. The battle lasted 7 minutes. Catherine Moore watched the Velthury flagship break apart under concentrated fire from 5 human destroyers. The great ship split in half, spilling atmosphere and bodies into the void. Admiral Krixvelthin died without ever understanding what had killed him. 67 enemy vessels destroyed, Rachel Santos reported. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "The remaining ships are retreating at maximum speed." "Let them go," Catherine ordered. "We want survivors. We need them to tell the Council what happened here." Commander Davis looked up from his station. "Admiral, we did not lose a single ship. We took some minor shield damage. Nothing serious." Catherine closed her eyes for a moment. She had expected victory, but not like this. The gap between human technology and Velthury technology was not small. It was enormous. It was like the difference between a sword and a nuclear bomb. "Send a message to Earth," she said quietly. "Tell them the Phoenix system works even better than we hoped." On Nexira Prime, the Galactic Council watched recordings of the battle in horrified silence. The images showed Velthury ships exploding one after another, while human weapons tore through their defenses like they were made of paper. Ambassador Krix had collapsed when he saw his cousin's ship destroyed. Medical teams had carried him away. Several other representatives had simply fled the chamber, unable to process what they were seeing. 71 ships, High Counselor Tarvon said slowly. "We lost 71 ships in 7 minutes. The humans lost none. How is this possible?" demanded a delegate from the Morphrey banking clans. "Our scientists told us that such weapons could not exist. They violated fundamental laws of physics." "Apparently," Lyra Voss said, "our fundamental laws of physics were wrong." The chamber fell silent. For thousands of years, the Council had believed that they understood the universe. They had told other species that certain technologies were impossible. They had restricted development to keep everyone dependent on Council resources. They had been so certain of their superiority, and now a species that had only been in space, for a few decades, had developed weapons that made their entire military obsolete. "What do we do?" someone asked Tarvin floated in the center of the room, his glowing form dim with despair. I do not know. For the first time in my 3,000 years of existence, I truly do not know. Back on Earth, the news of the victory spread quickly. People celebrated in the streets. For the first time in 17 years, humanity did not have to be afraid of the alien powers that surrounded them. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Secretary General Daniel Perry met with Admiral Moore via holographic communication. "Congratulations, Admiral," Perry said. "You have just changed the course of galactic history." Catherine shook her head. "This was not just a victory, sir. This was a message. We have shown them that we are not prey. But now we need to decide what comes next." "What do you mean?" "We can stay isolated. Build our own civilization without the Council. With Phoenix technology, we do not need them anymore." Perry nodded slowly. Or we can use this moment to change things. Not just for humanity, but for everyone. The Council has been controlling galactic civilization for thousands of years. They have kept other species down, just like they tried to keep us down. Maybe it is time for a new order. Perry thought about this for a long moment. Outside his window, he could see the celebration in the streets. People waving flags. Children laughing. A species that had finally found its strength. "That is a big decision," he finally said. "Yes, sir," Catherine agreed. "But I think it is the right one. We did not fight for isolation. We fought for respect. Now we have a chance to help build something better." Perry smiled for the first time in months. "Then let us start building." 3 months passed after the Battle of the Boundary, and the galaxy had changed forever. The old order was crumbling. Species that had feared the Council for centuries now whispered about rebellion. Governments that had depended on Council trade were collapsing. And at the center of it all, human space remained closed, silent, and untouchable. The Morphrey banking clans declared bankruptcy on a Tuesday afternoon. Their entire economy had been built on loans to human businesses. Without those businesses, without that trade, they had nothing. Riots broke out on their homeworld as ordinary citizens lost their savings overnight. The Trelawney Confederacy was starving. Their advanced irrigation systems, all human-made, had broken down without human engineers to maintain them. Crops failed on 12 different planets. The government begged the Council for help. But the Council had no help to give. And in the shadows, the Kreth Dominion was making secret contact with Earth. For decades, the Council had used the Kreth as a threat to keep other species loyal. They had called them monsters, barbarians, enemies of civilization. But the Kreth remembered something the Council had hoped everyone would forget. They remembered that they had once been a peaceful species, till the Council decided they were too powerful and needed to be contained. Now the Kreth wanted to talk to humanity. "Enemy of my enemy," they said. "Perhaps we can be friends, on Earth, in the Planetary Defense Command Center." Admiral Catherine Moore studied the intelligence reports with growing concern. She was tired. 3 months of constant vigilance had worn her down. But she could not rest. "Not yet. The Council is falling apart faster than we expected," she said to her staff. "That is not necessarily good news." "Why not?" asked Nathan Hughes. "They tried to destroy us." "Let them suffer." "Because chaos helps no one," Catherine replied. "Billions of innocent beings live under Council rule. They did not make the decisions that hurt us. They do not deserve to starve because their leaders were arrogant fools." The door opened and Secretary General Daniel Perry entered with a small group of advisors. Among them was Dr. Samuel Grant, looking even older than his 72 years. The Phoenix Project had taken everything from him, but he had succeeded beyond anyone's dreams. "We need to make a decision," Perry announced. "The Council has requested a meeting. High Counselor Tarvon himself wants to negotiate." Catherine frowned. "Negotiate what?" "They have nothing we need. Our colonies are self-sufficient. Our technology is superior. Why would we go back to being their servants?" "We would not be going back as servants," Perry said. "We would be going as equals, or perhaps more than equals." Dr. Samuel Grant spoke up, his voice rough from exhaustion. "Catherine, I understand your anger. I share it. But there are billions of beings out there who had nothing to do with the Council's crimes against us. Many of them are suffering right now because of this crisis. We cannot ignore that. They ignored us, Catherine said bitterly. Where was their concern when our colonists were being murdered? They were afraid, said a young woman named Christine Palmer. She had become one of Perry's key advisors since the Phoenix breakthrough. The Council controlled all information. Most species never heard about the Kepler-4 for it to be massacre. They never knew about the unfair court rulings. They only knew what the Council told them. The room was quiet for a moment. Catherine stared at the star map on the wall, thinking about all the points of light that represented living worlds full of living beings. What exactly is Tarvan offering? She finally asked. He wants to meet on neutral ground, Perry replied. A space station in unclaimed territory. No weapons, no tricks. Just talking, and if it is a trap, then we have 23 ships with Phoenix weapons ready to respond. Catherine considered this for a long moment. She thought about her parents, who had died believing that humanity would always be at the mercy of alien powers. She thought about the soldiers she had buried over the years, men and women who deserved better than to die for alien causes. But she also thought about the future. A galaxy where humanity was feared rather than respected was not much better than a galaxy where humanity was weak. Fear bred resentment. Resentment bred conflict. And conflict meant more dead soldiers, more grieving families. All right, she said. Set up the meeting. But I am coming along. If this is a trap, I want to look Tarvan in his glowing face when I spring our response. The meeting took place 2 weeks later on a small space station that had once been a trading post. Now it floated in empty space, far from any planet or star. The human delegation arrived first. Secretary General Perry led the group, flanked by Admiral Moore and a new addition to the team. Ambassador Marcus Webb. Marcus was 60 years old, a former diplomat who had resigned from the Council mission 5 years ago in protest. He had seen the corruption up close. He knew exactly how the aliens thought. The Council delegation arrived an hour later. High Counselor Tarvan floated through the airlock, his glowing form dimmer than usual. Behind him came Lyra Voss, and 3 other representatives from species that had voted against military action. The 2 groups faced each other across a simple metal table in a bare conference room. No fancy decorations. No diplomatic protocols. Just 2 sides that had nearly destroyed each other, trying to find a path forward. Thank you for coming, Tarvan began. His voice was quieter than before, humbled by defeat. I know you have no reason to trust us. No, Perry agreed. We do not. Then let me begin by saying something that I should have said 17 years ago. Tarvan paused, and his glowing form flickered. We were wrong. The Council was wrong. We treated humanity as children to be managed rather than partners to be respected. We dismissed your concerns. We ignored your suffering. And when you finally stood up for yourselves, we tried to crush you with military force. Catherine watched Tarvan carefully. She'd expected arrogance, excuses, demands. This admission of guilt surprised her. Why should we believe you have changed? Marcus Webb asked. Your species have been running the galaxy for thousands of years. You have never shared power with anyone, Lyra Voss spoke up, because we have no choice. The Council's authority was built on military superiority. That is gone now. Our economy depended on controlling trade. That is collapsing. Either we find a new way to organize galactic civilization, or everything falls apart. Let it fall apart, Catherine said coldly. You deserve nothing less. Admiral Tarvan said gently, I understand your anger. If our positions were reversed, I would feel the same. But please consider what happens if the Council simply dissolves. There are predator species waiting in the outer regions. Without some form of cooperation, millions of worlds will become targets. And why is that our problem? Because you are part of this galaxy now. Whether you like it or not, what happens to other species will eventually affect humanity. Isolation is not a permanent solution. It is just a pause. The negotiations continued for hours. The humans demanded guarantees that could not be easily broken. The council representatives offered concessions that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Slowly, carefully, a framework began to take shape. Humanity would rejoin galactic civilization, but not as a member of the old council. Instead, they would help create something new. An interstellar compact based on genuine equality. Every species would have a voice. Technology would be freely shared. Trade would be fair and enforced by neutral parties. And Phoenix technology would be available to anyone who wanted it. The days of keeping species weak to control them were over. "This is a lot of trust to ask from us," Perry said as the meeting drew to a close. "Yes," Tarvan agreed, "and we have done nothing to earn it. But perhaps we can start earning it now." Catherine Moore stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars burned in the eternal darkness. Each one represented possibilities. Danger. Opportunity. The unknown. "My entire career," she said quietly, "I have been preparing for war with aliens. Now you are asking me to help build peace with them. Can you?" Lyra Voss asked. Catherine turned to face the alien ambassador. For the first time, she saw something other than an enemy. She saw a being who was afraid, confused, and trying to find a better path. "I do not know," Catherine admitted, "but I am willing to try." 1 year after the crisis began, the galaxy gathered on the human colony world of New Montana for a moment that would change history forever. Governor Laura Bennett had offered her planet as the site for the first assembly of the new Interstellar Compact. Representatives from 63 species had accepted the invitation. The great amphitheater had been built in just 3 months, carved into the side of a mountain that overlooked endless fields of golden wheat. 2 moons hung in the purple sky as thousands of beings took their seats. There were no segregated sections based on species importance. No hierarchy of seating based on how long a civilization had existed. Everyone sat together as equals. Ambassador Marcus Webb walked to the central podium and looked out at the crowd. He saw humans sitting next to Kreth warriors. He saw more freebankers sharing food with Trelawney farmers. He saw former enemies laughing together at jokes he could not hear. It was the most beautiful sight he had ever witnessed. "We gather here today," Marcus began, his voice amplified across the amphitheater, "not as rulers and subjects, not as strong and weak, not as advanced and primitive. We gather as equals. Each species in this place brings something unique to our shared civilization. Each perspective has value. Each voice deserves to be heard." In the audience, Dr. Samuel Grant sat beside Christine Palmer. His work on the Phoenix Project had aged him terribly, but his eyes were bright with emotion. He remembered his small house in Ohio, his garden, his grandchildren who would grow up in a galaxy completely different from the one he had known. "The old order was built on fear," Martsu S. continued. "Fear of change. Fear of those who were different. Fear that sharing power meant losing it. For thousands of years, the Council told species what they could not do, what they could not build, what they could not become. That era is over." Admiral Catherine Moore stood at the back of the amphitheater, watching the crowd with careful eyes. Beside her was a Kreth captain named Vorn. His people had been enemies of humanity for years. Pushed into conflict by Council manipulation, now he and Catherine trained together, shared tactics, learned from each other. "I killed humans in the border wars," Vorn had told her the day before. "Many humans. I believed I was defending my people from monsters." "I killed Kreth," Catherine had replied. "I believed the same thing, and now I think we were both lied to." They had stood in silence after that. 2 warriors who had found more in common with each other than with the politicians who had sent them to fight. Marcus continued his speech. "Humanity did not challenge the old order because we wanted to rule the galaxy. We challenged it because we refused to accept a universe where fairness was forever delayed, where some beings mattered and others did not, where the powerful could exploit the weak without consequence." In her seat near the front, Lyra Voss listened with all 4 of her eyes closed. She was remembering the day she had voted against human representation in the Council. She had been so certain of her superiority then, so confident that she understood what was best for younger species. How wrong she had been. Today, Marcus declared, we begin a new chapter in galactic history. There will be challenges ahead. There will be disagreements and conflicts. Some of the old powers will resist change. Some will try to return to the old ways. But we will face those challenges together, as partners, not as masters and servants. The applause started slowly, and then built into a roar that echoed off the mountain walls. Beings who had never met before embraced each other. Old enemies shook hands or tentacles or whatever appendages their species used for greeting. That night, Governor Laura Bennett hosted a reception at her residence. The old farmhouse had been expanded to accommodate hundreds of guests, and the fields around it were filled with tents and pavilions where different species could mingle in comfort. Laura moved through the crowd, her mechanical arm drawing curious looks from aliens who had never seen human augmentation technology. She stopped when she found Lyra Voss standing alone near a window, looking out at the celebration. Strange feeling, is it not? Laura said. A year ago, you were part of the government that tried to keep us down. Now you are here, helping us build something new. Ada turned to face her. A year ago, I believed that I was protecting galactic civilization from a dangerous young species. Now I see that I was protecting a system that had become corrupt and cruel. Can you really change? Laura asked. Not just you personally. Your species. Your culture. Can beings who have been in charge for thousands of years really learn to share power? I do not know, Lyra admitted. But I know that we must try. The alternative is worse. Laura looked out at the celebration. Humans and aliens laughing together. Children of different species playing games they had invented on the spot. The beginning of friendships that might last generations. Maybe that is enough, she said. None of us know if this will work. But we are all trying anyway. In orbit above New Montana, the carrier Defiance floated silently against the stars. Most of the crew was on the planet enjoying the celebration. But Admiral Catherine Moore had returned to her ship, needing a moment of quiet reflection. She found herself in the observation lounge, staring out at the galaxy stretched before her. Billions of stars. Trillions of planets. More possibilities than any mind could comprehend. Commander Rachel Santos found her there an hour later. Big day, Rachel said, taking a seat beside her. The biggest of my life, Catherine agreed. I spent my career preparing for war, learning to fight, learning to kill. Now I am supposed to help build peace. Is that so bad? Catherine was silent for a long moment. No, it is just different. I always knew who the enemy was. The Kreth, the Council. Anyone who threatened humanity. But now there are no clear enemies. Just billions of beings trying to figure out how to live together? That sounds harder than war. It is. Much harder. Catherine finally smiled. But maybe that is the point. War is easy. You shoot at the enemy until they stop moving. Peace requires something more. Understanding, patience, the willingness to see former enemies as potential friends. Below them, New Montana turned slowly on its axis. The lights of the celebration twinkled like earthbound stars. In a few hours, the first assembly of the Interstellar Compact would officially begin. Decisions would be made that would shape the future of countless species. Do you think it will work? Rachel asked. This new compact, this dream of equality? I do not know, Catherine admitted. There will be setbacks. Some species will try to cheat the system. Some will cling to the old ways. We will make mistakes. We will disappoint each other. It does not sound very hopeful. But we will keep trying, Catherine continued. That is what humans do. We fail and we try again. We make mistakes and we learn from them. We get knocked down and we stand back up. She turned to face Rachel, and her eyes held a determination that no defeat could ever break. The galaxy thought we were weak because we were young. They thought they could control us because we were new to the stars. They were wrong. Humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our technology. It is our refusal to give up. Our stubborn belief that tomorrow can be better than today. Can it be? Better. Catherine looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, human colonies were growing. Human ships were exploring. Human scientists were discovering wonders that nobody had ever imagined. And now, for the first time in history, they were not alone. They had partners, allies, friends from 100 different worlds who had finally learned to see them as equals. "Yes," Catherine said softly. "I believe it can." The stars waited, patient and eternal, full of dangers and wonders beyond counting. Humanity had come to the galaxy seeking acceptance. They had found rejection and emerged stronger. They had faced destruction and survived. And now they were helping to build something new, something better, something worthy of all the species brave enough to reach for the sky. The future was uncertain. It always would be. But for the first time in a very long time, it was also full of hope. And that was enough to keep going.